Hi everyone, as some of you hopefully are aware, I already do a quarterly market update, but a number of people have asked me, would I do a commercial update? Because I do quite a lot of commercial investments, buying investments and selling investments, and I know a lot of you are getting into that field, so much so that I've written a book on commercial property, which will be out in the next week or two, and you can purchase it from my website, John Howard Property. That's the plug. Let's get on with the update. Now, as a lot of you know, commercial property has been on its knees, and I mean on its knees for many years now, and there are massive opportunities within this field. However, as some of you are already aware, you can only really borrow 50% loan to value on commercial property. It doesn't seem to matter at that level whether it's vacant or it's occupied. If it's occupied, you can really only borrow the money for the shortest length of the lease. So if the lease is 3 years, a bank may potentially lend you the money on a bridge for 3 years. So bear that in mind with what I'm talking about going forward. So let's talk about city centres, because city centres have taken the biggest hammering over the last few years, and they've taken a serious hammering. Rents that were 100,000 are now 50,000. They've gone down half in my experience. Now, there are retail tenants out there prepared to open up shops in the high streets again. There are them, because the reason they're there now is because rents are halved. What you've got to remember with the rates though is that all councils only retain 10% of the rates. So I've been talking to my chief executive of Ipswich Borough Council recently and saying to her, look, you know, why don't you reduce the rates in town centres? That would help get more shops in. And the answer is, well, we only keep 10% of the rates. The rest goes to central government. Now, this may change, but at the moment, that is the case. So bear that in mind. So city centre shops, you can now let them again, but you've just got to be realistic. You can buy a lot cheaper than you could, but you have to rent them a bit cheaper than you were. So bear that in mind. It's all relative. Now, market towns. These are the sort of small market towns. We all know them across the UK. We'll have them close to us, I'm sure. They've done very well since COVID because a lot of people are working from home. They're not going into the big cities too much anymore or anything else. I went to get my hair cut in Edinburgh recently, and I was sitting there and I was the only one having my hair cut, and there's all these chairs empty, and I said to the hairdresser, you know, surely, why are these chairs empty? He said, COVID. He said, since COVID, in Edinburgh city centre, a lot of my regulars don't come in anymore. They work from home. Saturdays are busy, but the rest of the time I'm down to 1 or 2 chairs when he's got 8 chairs sitting there. So that just shows you how things have changed. But of course, that's really benefited the market towns. So coffee shops, cafes, dare I say vapes. I know, not popular, but I've got a tenant who's a vape tenant, sells vapes and is doing very well. Some people might come on here and start criticising me for that one, but there we go. So there are hairdressers are always a good one because people have to have the haircut, beauticians and all the rest of it. There are shops that are opening up in these market towns and doing very well. So market towns are definitely a plus. And I would definitely, if you're looking to get into commercial property, I think a market town close to you would be a really good start. So that's good news. Out of town shops, they work if there's some parking. So if they're out of town, you might get a specialist user, but they probably need parking. So if it's out of town, I always want to make sure there's a car park nearby or a lay-by nearby where people can pop in, drop off whatever they want, laundry or whatever it might be, jump in the car and go, remember. So out of town, you need parking. Now, offices. City centre offices, my goodness, it's a disaster. Absolute disaster. A lot of them have been now have been converted to PD, but when you convert these big offices, I'm talking about, you know, offices that will convert into 50, 60, 70, 80 flats, you know, they need to be in a nice area. Otherwise you've got a big problem, and quite often they might be better to be left as offices. They're so cheap to buy, and you can afford to split them up into floors, or even split the floors up even more, you know, divide it even more and let to smaller companies. But parking is essential. If in the city centre with no parking, good luck, you've got a problem. Out of town, There are a lot of owner-occupiers who are looking to purchase smaller offices out of town with parking. Sometimes they buy them in their pension fund and then rent them to themselves. So these smaller offices out of town with parking are pretty popular. And actually, you know, just because you can do PD, permissive development with them and convert them, doesn't mean you should. You might find that they're actually better to re-let as commercial now. So out of town offices are pretty good news, I think. It's all about parking for a lot of these things. A lot of it's all about parking. Now, for the more ambitious developers out there, the ones that want to, you know, build for Lidl and Aldi and Wendy's and Premier Inns and McDonald's and travel lodges and so on, the good news for you guys, really good news, there is a lot of companies looking to expand at the moment. That might surprise some of you. All those companies I've mentioned are looking for sites. They're actively looking for sites. They will pay you a fee to tell you about a site. And if you go on their websites, you'll see where they want to expand into. And if you can find some land, agree to purchase it subject to planning permission, sign up one of these retailers who will be happy to sign up if it's where they want to be. That way you can forward fund the whole project and you don't put any of your own money in. Now, how about that? You have to get the stars to align, I accept that, but it's very, very possible. These big commercial developers really put none of their own money in. They find a site, they buy it subject to planning, they find a tenant, they put the two together, they sign everybody up and they build it out. And they've probably got an investment buyer at the end to take it off them at the end as well. So look, hopefully this has been useful. If you'd like me to do a quarterly update of these, I'll be delighted to. And don't forget to order my book at johnhowardproperty.com. See you soon.